the only independent news talk network in the Middle East, Israel National Radio and IsraelNationalRadio.com present the Tamar Yonah Show. Here's Tamar Yonah.
And you're listening to the Tamar Yonah Show here, broadcasting live out of the resettlement of Bethel. That's right, we're back here after 2,000 years. It is the resettlement, just north of Jerusalem, D.C., Jerusalem, David's capital, King David's capital, and I'm really happy to be here with you today. I have a special guest I'm going to tell you about in a moment, but first let me let you know that the show is broadcasting live. All right, today you are going to get an education on the beauty of Israel. I know so many times you read headlines and you read about this going on in Israel, and our leaders want to give this land away, and they're going after their futile peace plans, etc., etc. Today you are going to be inspired. Today you are going to learn and be educated, and you in turn will be able to help others learn about Judea and Samaria, the land of God. I'm holding this book in my hands by that same title, and I have with me the author of that book right here in the studio, who is in Israel, Ezra Ridgely, and he wrote this book, and he was totally inspired when he went around doing research on many different communities, or what some people call settlements, right here in the land of Israel, Judea and Samaria, and was so inspired and did so much research, he decided he needed to write a book and send this message out to the world. And he is here tonight going to tell us what you need to know and what you need to tell others. So welcome to the show, Ezra Ridgely.
Baruch Hashem, thank you so much, Tamar, that I could be here. It's a joy, and I'm glad to be able to share about God's holy land. And this land of Judea and Samaria is special. Hashem himself says, what's he say in the Torah? He says, I will bring you into a land of hills and valleys. By the way, that's the contours of Judea and Samaria. This is the land that the eyes of Hashem always looks upon. Now just think about it. Hashem is always looking upon this land. It's because he has a special affection for the land. Hashem has a special affection. But there's more than just a oneness between Hashem and the land. It says in the prophet Ezekiel, Hashem says to the mountains of Israel, and he says, I shall cause men to walk upon you, my people Israel, and they shall inherit you, and you will be to them for an inheritance, and you will no longer continue to be bereaved of them. Now here you go. He's comforting the mountains, saying, don't worry, the people of Israel are coming back. And he says that the land was bereaved. That, in other words, the land is mourning because there was no Jewish people on it. But now we're back in the land. The sages say that the presence of Hashem never departs from this land. So there's a special oneness. We learn when it comes to Judea and Samaria, this is the holiest real estate in the world. And I've just realized that by coming here and visiting so many of the beautiful communities throughout Judea and Samaria, also called the West Bank, that I feel the world doesn't know what's actually here. And that's what inspired me to write the book, that they just cannot understand the jewels that are here, the noble people, and this is one of the reasons why I'm here today.
Sure, I can speak from first-hand experience. I had a bar mitzvah a few weeks ago, and I had a family member who's very left-wing who lives up north in the Haifa area, and she refused to come to visit me for our bar mitzvah because she said she makes it a principle never to cross the green line.
Yes, if she came, she'd be changed.
She would, and I invited her. I just keep loving her and keep my arms open. I just have to insert here that, thank God we have wonderful schools and communities here in Judea and Samaria, and they're very patriotic, and they're raising these very patriotic kids who, when they do go to the army, are the best fighters, and they become officers, etc. A lot of that help, though, thank goodness, are from wonderful people living in the United States and other communities around the river who help contribute to this as well. And if you're living outside of Israel and you feel like you want to be part of the settlement movement, you want to be part of the rebirth of the land of Israel, and but you can't because you're so far away, you can get in touch with me, and I will give you different charities that you can donate to that can help build. So you can be part of, you can be part of this the rebuilding of the land of Israel after 2,000 years. It's amazing.
It's amazing, and you know what? This is the first time that there's in 2,000 years, there's a Jewish culture in Judea and Samaria. And actually, if you want to talk about Shomron, it's actually been almost 2,700 years since there's been a full Jewish culture, since the northern 10 tribes were exiled. For most part, they were never heard from again. But now, in parts of the Shomron, there's a Jewish culture where people were born, raised, and they only know Judea and Samaria. This is their land, and they're eternally connected now to this land, and that's the first time in 2,000 to 2,700 years. And that's a miracle. That's a miracle of God.
This is also a situation of natural growth where the children have grown up, have gotten married, and now need new homes to live in to raise their families, and they're having children. And this is where the United States government, or I should be more specific because we love America, but the State Department wants to put their hands around our necks and say, no, you cannot live here. You cannot even add on another room to your house because we want to give this land away to make a Palestinian state, a terrorist state in the belly of Israel, and this is something that's preventing and hindering the growth of this region. So the American people really have to write their congressmen and political leaders and support Israel in this aspect.
For a quick point on that, before I go on to what I was going to continue, we have to take note that according to present-day international law, Judea and Samaria belongs to the Jewish people. The mandate for Palestine of 1922, which was ratified by the League of Nations and fully adopted by the UN, specifically states in it that it recognizes that there was an ancient Jewish connection to Palestine and their right to reconstitute that ancient nation. And where was that nation? For the most part, it was centered in Judea and Samaria, with Jerusalem as its capital, which is present-day East Jerusalem. That's the land that the British decided they wanted to divide up and give to the Arabs. But we have to know that there's no law-breaking here. Everybody's just doing there's no other legally binding entity in existence regarding this land except the mandate for Palestine. Now, I just want to talk about one more institute of learning, because we're talking about religious institutions. And, well, you know what? Not every settlement is religious. Especially when we go down from Shechem past south of Hebron down, let's say, the Highway 60 corridor. These are very religious yeshuvim. But we have a settlement like Ariel, and it's a beautiful community. I heard BBC once complaining about all these outposts, saying, the world's got to get rid of these outposts, Israel's got to dismantle them, because Ariel was started as an illegal outpost, and look how big it is today. Well, in 1978, 40 courageous families planted themselves on top of the hill, and today, Ariel has 18,000 people. However, what is the jewel of Ariel? But in it, you will notice that this beautiful community has the barakah of God, because there are Jews who are living on his land, and they love the land. And in this community is the college, Judea and Samaria, which actually has been recently upgraded to a university. And the faculty contains many scientists and accomplished people. Here, advanced research is conducted with numerous research and development activities being worked on. Some of the projects include robotics, electro-optics, crystal growth, environmental studies, radiation testing, and laser use. In 2003, they began development of a navigation program for planetary rover missions. Dozens of experts from the former Soviet Union nations have found jobs at this university, and they're working on many research projects. In fact, this college, now university, has published hundreds of papers in international journals on science and technology. And they still have many other courses. They have still computer programming courses, clerical services, psychology. They have night courses, even on tourism. And they have over 9,000 students here. And this community is like perfect picture. You won't find a better community in North America than Ariel. They have shopping centers and tennis courts, sports complex, mini golf, hotels, absorption center, fitness center, rabbinic courts, civil courts, synagogues, and a 4-lane highway goes right to the front door. And you know what? It's right in the West Bank, so-called. And you know what? The world would like to destroy all that. But what is it? The world is changing. We're changing the world forever, And, we should be, just recognize the great things that are happening. Herzl made a great observation.
Remind everybody who Herzl is.
Theodor Herzl, he founded the first Zionist Congress, which convened in 1897 in Basel, Switzerland, and from then on, the effort to create a homeland was in full swing, and he wrote sort of a pamphlet called The Jewish State, and his vision for what a Jewish nation would be. And you know, he said, "The Jews who will it shall achieve their state. We shall live at last as free men on our own soil and in our own homes and peacefully die. The world will be liberated by our freedom, enriched by our wealth, magnified by our greatness, and whatever we attempt there for our own benefit will rebound mightily and beneficially to all mankind."
All right, I'm going to stop you there because we're going to take a break for the news in just a minute. We're speaking with Ezra Ridgely. He's the author of the book called Judea and Samaria, the Land of God. The book is available now, by the way. You can go to his website at www.torahalive.com. It's spelled TORAHALIVE. Torah Alive is all one word.com. You can order his book there. This is a book that would be great also for you to buy for your friends, neighbors, anyone else you want to convince that Israel needs to be supported. And it's just amazing, all these things you're saying, Ezra, about how the Jews are coming back to the land, and they're doing so many good things, schools, education, universities, helping the world. And it's so obvious who the good guys are in this conflict. And you we're back here, and I'm interviewing the author of Judea and Samaria, the Land of God, by Ezra Ridgely. This is a great book filled with inspiration, information, everything you need in order to get you ready for the redemption, make you feel good about supporting Israel when all the world is telling you that you are evil for doing so. And Ezra Ridgely is on the show here today with me in the studio, telling us about the importance and the miracles that he's seen here with his own eyes, touring around and visiting the different communities here in Judea and Samaria. So everything changed basically when you came here and saw things with your own eyes.
Absolutely.
And only when you see with your own eyes like you do, and can you give out that message to the world is so important, and that message, unfortunately, is not getting out because the world is not interested in letting that information get out.
The international media, even local, I got to tell you a story. Just before I went to Gush Katif my first time, it was the first place I went to settlements. And, I didn't know how to go there. I just saw Gaza on the map. I'm going to go that direction. And when I saw some people flag me down at a corner, they said, "Are you going to Gush Katif?" And I said, "Yeah, I don't know how to get there, but if you're going, yeah." And these 4 people got in my car from 4 different families. They're the nicest people I ever met. But the day before I went there, I was reading an online newspaper edition of an Israeli newspaper in English. I won't say which one. I read it, and he said that the people of Gush Katif were evil people. Never been there in his life. And of course, I didn't believe it, but when you go there and you meet them, and like this one woman said, "Here, I'm going to give you a tour." And she just showed me all around. She goes, "There last night, a missile fell." She showed me a hole right in the road. And it's just like out of sight, out of mind. It's that simple. There's such an anti-religious, anti-cultural bias. And it comes from the whole world continuously saying that this is illegally occupied land. That's a lie. Because of this, according to international law, as we also stated already, this land is Jewish land. And another miracle that's going on, just up the road from Bet-El, there's a settlement called Ophrah. Well, Ophrah, if you read the Tanakh, Ophrah was a very special place because the angel of God appeared in Ophrah. And you know what? When God's angel appears there, this place will be marked forever. He appeared to Gideon and said to Gideon while he was threshing wheat at a winepress, "I want you to deliver my people from the hands of the Midianites." Now, we learned that Ophrah was the center of wine. Archaeologists have found wine presses all around the hills of Ophrah that are like 3,000 years old. And not only is God rebuilding his ancient Hebrew civilization as he was at first, with many communities with the same name, were located in the same location, but they're actually taking on the same characteristics as their ancient counterpart. And Ophrah was a center for wine. And today, the miracle of wine has now again come to Ophrah via the Tanya Winery. They harvest their grapes by hand on hills 900 meters above sea level. The wine's aged in French oak barrels for periods of 14 to 24 months until it's bottled. And just think about this. In 2002, the Tanya Winery produced 800 bottles of wine. Today, they produce 30,000 bottles of wine a year. This is like outstanding blessing from God. And not only is it just wine, this is special wine because the international wine community has given it 9 medals over the last 12 months, including 5 gold medals, 3 silvers, and a bronze. But you know, Hashem said it would be like this. What did he say in the prophet? He said, the mountain shall drip with sweet wine, and the hills shall flow with it. I will bring back the captives of my people Israel. They will build the waste cities, Ophrah being one of them, Bethel, Shiloh, on, and they will plant vineyards and drink wine from them. They shall also make gardens and eat fruit from them. By the way, there's lots of fruit trees. They grow peaches and nectarines in Shiloh. You should see it. I will plant them in their land, and they will never be pulled up, says Hashem, your God.
And this is true. I have to interrupt you here because I have my own story, just to emphasize exactly what you're saying, Ezra. And by the way, we're speaking with Ezra Ridgely, author of the book Judea and Samaria, The Land of God. This is a book that you've got to get and pass on to others as well. You can get it on www.torahalive.com. That's all one word, torahalive.com, and Torah with an H at the end, Torah. When I first came out to Judea and Samaria, I used to live in the city center of Jerusalem before I came out to live in this area, in the suburbs of Jerusalem. And when we first got to our house, it was just built. People were living in caravans at first. I'm talking many years ago. And people had just come to live in their houses. We had moved in as well from the city, and we were in our new house. My husband and I were standing outside in our backyard, and we're standing there, and it was kind of like we were in the Twilight Zone, and we were whispering to each other saying, there's something strange about this place. Like, we didn't know, maybe because we're city people, we didn't know. You know, I grew up in the suburbs, but for the last several years living in Israel, I was growing up in Jerusalem. I was in Jerusalem. So, and then my husband said, I know what it is, Tamar. There's no birds here. There's no bees here. And it was the truth, because what we were living in was a community that was a mountainside that was just full of thorns and thistles for 2,000 years. Tractors had come, straightened out the land, plopped some houses down, and there were no trees, there was no grass, there were no flowers, there were no birds, there were no bees. Within 1 year of living there, we put in grass, we put in flowers, we put in fruit trees, as you said, and the next year there were birds, and there were bees, and there were children playing in the streets, and there were mothers with their baby carriages standing outside and drinking tea and talking and laughing, and life had returned to the land of Israel, and that place that had been barren for 2,000 years. And you really feel yourself being part of history, coming here and living and taking a piece of land and bringing life back to it. It's an amazing thing.
All of the people that are settling here are doing a great mitzvah because they're sanctifying Hashem's name, who made the prophetic promises to bring the Jews here, and by coming here, they're sanctifying His name. And you know, this land is so special that what does Hashem say about it? He says, on the day that I lifted my hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt to a land that I sought out for them, flowing with milk and honey, it is the glory of all lands. I just think, you know, I can give my personal opinion, but when Hashem himself says it is the glory of all lands, it's closed. That means it doesn't matter where you're going to go in the world, it's not as good as here. And that is the truth. You know, there's a settlement called Kfar Etzion, and people don't know, but this was a West Bank settlement before Israel was a nation. I mean, you know, and what happened is, today it's located 20 kilometers south of Jerusalem, and it was reestablished in 1967. However, in January of 1948, with threats from Arabs, murderous threats, they evacuated the women and children. And it came to pass that the threats were realized. On May 13th, 1948, one day before the founding of the State of Israel, 80 men were massacred by the Arabs, just killed for no reason. The Arabs also uprooted thousands of fruit trees that they had planted, and the Arabs held on to the land, of course, as I just said, till 1967 when it was liberated. And it was found in a plantation scroll in Kfar Etzion. It was written in 1944, and guess what the founders had written? 2,000 years ago, these slopes reverberated with the sounds of a multitude of trees and life, teemed all about. Today they stand bleak and desolate, just as you were saying now. And we have taken this oath. Upon settling Kfar Etzion, we shall not rest, nor know no peace, until we cast off the shame of barrenness from these highlands, until we shall cover them with fruit and forest trees, which together shall give forth a song, songbirds of rebirth, which the prophet Ezekiel foresaw. And it says, "But you, O mountains of Israel, you shall shoot forth your branches and yield your fruit to my people Israel, for they're about to come." Today, they reestablished themselves after 2,000 years, Judea and Samaria. And in 1967, they began to work and to undo all the evil that the Arabs had done by uprooting all the trees. And today, if you go to Kfar Zion, there's a forest. It's like a Canadian forest. You walk in, you see a cabin, you think, this looks like Canada. They grow trees and fruit trees, and they're doing the miracle that their fathers back in 1944 wanted to, but were forbidden from doing it. But now they're doing it, and they're achieving great things. Like, there's lots of birds there. Even Efrat, this morning when I woke up in Efrat, I could hear the birds. And I tell you, just 30 years ago, there's probably no birds there.
It's life. It's after 2,000 years of sitting fallow, the prophecies that our prophets prophesied come true. So you've been around now, and you've seen the different settlements or different communities in Judea and Samaria here, what some people call the West Bank. And what do you see between the similarities between today and their histories? What their ancient counterparts?
Well, Hashem says that I will do better for you in the end than at your beginning. I will do more good in the end than at your beginning. And if you go to communities like Gush Etzion, you have these beautiful communities like Efrat and Elazar and Neve Daniel and Alon Shvut, and these are like houses that you can find. Anything you find in the best suburbs of North America, the best paved streets, the most orderly societies, schools that are better than North America, in my opinion. If you go up to, let's say, Eli, the settlement of Eli, this Jewish community with 3,000 souls north of Ophrah, they have this basketball court in the middle of the hills. I'm from a nice North Toronto Jewish suburb, and I tell you, there's not a basketball court just like that in Thornhill or in all of Toronto. And they didn't have basketball courts like that in the days of David HaMelech. And Hashem is building beautiful houses, beautiful communities. They have an unbelievable sports center. You should see the size of their swimming pool. And Hashem, He's doing better now. Yes.
All right. So yet the international community, after all this bracha, or blessings that you're describing, that you're seeing here in Judea and Samaria, in the suburbs of Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, this whole area here, the international community wants to come in, wants the Jews to leave all of this that we've built, and they want to turn it over to terrorists. And how do you feel about that after seeing what there is and seeing what they did in Gush Katif? In Gush Katif, we took the sand and the desert, and we made them produce fruits, vegetables, flowers, herbs, that they're an abundance of goodness that we were exporting to Europe as well. There was such an abundance. I mean, how many people can grow out of sand? And yet we were able to do that, and such beautiful fruits and vegetables, etc., and flowers. We turn this over to terrorists in the hope for peace. That's what our leaders say, at least. And what has it been used for? They have been destroyed. They have been plundered, and they're today bases for shooting rockets and missiles at Israel. Now they want to do the same thing to Judea and Samaria. How do you feel about that?
Well, basically, in my opinion, it's a crime against humanity, because they know that even Fatah itself, Fatah's covenant also calls for Israel's destruction, and the world knows they're not going to repent. They're not going to give up their religious ideology. None of the other 57 Muslim countries have done such a thing. And, when you think about all this fruit, what they want to do basically is annul the covenant that God made with Abraham, our father. He was in Judea and Samaria. He was up near Shechem at a place called Elamori when Hashem said to him, "To your descendants I will give this land." Then a few years later, down in Hebron in Judea, God enacted an irrevocable covenant and said again, "To your descendants I will give this land." The sign of that covenant was Brit Milot, the covenant of circumcision. And now the world's saying, "Hey, no, you're not going to have that land." It would literally mean the annulling of the Jewish religion, which God enacted and gave to the Jewish people so that they could one day bring all humanity and bring shalom over the world. The world depends on us having this land. There's an anti-Jewish world culture against us, and this is really what it is. They want to annul the land covenant And really, this has nothing to do with genuinely caring about the Jewish people or the Palestinian people. They don't care about Palestinians, because if they did, they wouldn't let them teach their children to be terrorists and teach them in their school, which they're doing to this day, which is a crime against humanity, according to the UN. And they don't stop that. It's because they don't care.
Literally 3 minutes left to the show. How do you want to sum up everything?
Come and visit and support these people. They have, a lot of them have websites, and you can email them and, help them. Every settlement has specific needs. Some, they need money for security. Some need to plant more hothouses. Some need, there might be families that need help. But whatever tzedakah that you can provide for them, you are doing a mighty thing for the God of Israel. These communities are worthy of your help. This is the cream of the crop. The Jewish people in Israel are living on this land, and the world's got to know about them. And come and visit them if you can, and you'll be changed. It will change you, guaranteed. You'll say, I never knew it was like that.
And you'll be missing out in life. If they say that when we die, we're going to go to heaven, and I'm sorry about the microphone there, and we're going to be asked, what did you do with your life? And here you have the information presented before you. What a blessing Judea and Samaria is. Here you have a chance to really improve the world, to make the world better, to bring it closer to redemption by doing good. You have about 30 seconds.
Well, just expound on the goodness of the communities. There is nothing that exists on the planet Earth that's equivalent to these communities, where they're all Jewish. They're religious communities that live in the most dangerous areas. Everybody follows the laws of family purity. Their children are raised in Torah to love their neighbor. There's nothing on earth that's equivalent. So to have these communities removed and uprooted, it's so unthinkable, because there's nothing in the world. These are island oases of holiness, and we got to recognize what these communities are representing to the Jewish world.
Amen, amen, amen. I couldn't say it better myself. Ezra, God bless you. You should have much hatzlacha, much success on your book tour that you're doing. And again, the book, Judea and Samaria, the Land of God. Get it for yourself. Get it for your neighbors, your friends, your rabbi. It's a great book, and it will make you a better person. And it'll make you happy reading it. He talks about all the miracles that are happening in Israel here as well. I wanted to read you some, but didn't have time. But I want to thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
And we'll be back tomorrow